Lamar Jackson was officially available to be contacted by teams in the NFL willing to sign him to an offer sheet that they hope the Ravens would refuse to match. Where do things stand right now, a week into the Lamar-a-Palooza?
Well, one of the things that I became aware of over the weekend, and we spent some time trying to get it in a posture where it would be appropriate and accurate to report it, the idea that there is someone out there who is not a certified NFLPA agent who is contacting teams, multiple teams, on behalf of Lamar to try to get something going. And we reported that yesterday, and we added that this person is claiming that Lamar doesn't want a fully guaranteed contract, despite the fact that he has consistently asked the Ravens for one, and that he's ready to move on from the Ravens. And that one specific aspect caused a lot of Ravens fans to lose their minds. And it's like, folks, if someone's calling other teams on Lamar Jackson's behalf, what do you think the person is saying? Do you think they're saying, hey, will you do me a favor? You don't know me and I don't know you. We haven't worked together before. We'll never work together again. But would you give me an offer sheet that Lamar could sign so the Ravens match it? Because he really wants to stay in Baltimore. So the ship is trying to get it out of the harbor as it relates to Lamar Jackson, looking for something else. But he's yet to find any takers. I've yet to hear of any team that is seriously considering it. Maybe after the draft somebody would. But between now and day one of the 2023 draft, I think it's highly unlikely that anyone pursues him, signs him to an offer sheet, in large part, Rich, because I believe that teams believe the Ravens are likely to match pretty much any offer that Lamar Jackson would get.
And so how does it work once the draft occurs? Let's say this does go through the draft. Let's say we hear who this year's Brock Purdy is. The confetti comes down and in Kansas City, and it's all over. What happens then?
Well, the idea that he's restricted by the non-exclusive franchise tag, which means that any team that would sign him to an offer sheet that isn't matched would have to give up their next 2 first-round picks. That's this year's and next year's, for now, pre-2023 draft. And it's your original pick or higher if you've moved up. The Panthers don't have their original pick, but they're higher, so it would be the first overall pick if they were to do it. They aren't likely to do it. I'm just using them as an example. After the draft, then any team that has their 2024 and 2025 first-round pick can negotiate with Lamar Jackson, sign him to an offer sheet, and we see whether or not the Ravens match. And that, to me, would be the Bill Belichick move. You don't do it now when you hold the 14th overall pick. If you're thinking about upgrading from Mac Jones to Lamar Jackson, and I think most reasonable people would say, yeah, Lamar Jackson's better than Mac Jones, you wait until after the draft, you make your move then, and if the Ravens don't match, then what you get is a much lower first-round pick in 24, presuming that the Patriots are better with Lamar Jackson, and maybe a low pick in 2025. So after the draft, I think that's when maybe a small universe of interested teams will emerge. The Colts, for example, they're sitting at number 4. They think they're going to get a quarterback. Somebody trades up to the Cardinals at 3, and it goes quarterback, 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 and they don't like the 4th guy left, and they don't come out of it with a quarterback, then maybe we see Jim Irsay try to take the Mayflower back to Baltimore and bring Lamar Jackson back to Indianapolis. So I think after the draft it makes a lot more sense. But even then, there's a belief that the Ravens are ready to match. And one of the reasons they did this non-exclusive franchise tag is to basically hope and pray that someone would get him signed to an offer sheet because they can't get him signed to a long-term contract. So thank you for doing our negotiation. We match your offer. And if a team does that, they get nothing. They get nothing. They get no compensation. They get no picks. They don't get anything. They just put in the time and the effort to get him to sign an offer sheet. The Ravens match it, and then that's it. That team goes forward, potentially with a mess if they have a starter that's been undermined by the open pursuit of Lamar Jackson.
Well, I mean, that would be amazing if the Colts decide to make the Lamar Jackson move with 10 minutes on the clock and, demand the Ravens give them an answer of whether they match before the time's up. That would be wild. I don't know if the Ravens would be so willing to do something like that. But I'm just wondering again if there is a team that says, or Lamar's waits till May to make this decision, and somebody signs him to an offer sheet in May, right? Or somebody goes through OTAs and they don't like their quarterback situation and they wait till then to do it. And a team like the 49ers would then have the 2 first-round selections that would be required to talk to Lamar. I'm just wondering when is the end game? Just for everyone to understand, it would be June. Is that when it is, or mid-July when they have to? He either signs it or doesn't. I mean, what is the end game here, so everybody can put this in their mind's eye here in the middle of March?
Well, Rich, first of all, you raise a great point that I hadn't considered. What if the team signs into an offer sheet within 5 days of the draft? How does that work? And I'm going to try to find an answer to that, because I guess it's possible that someone could do that. Which first-round pick do you get then? Do you have to match before? Do you short-circuit the 5-day period by signing to an offer sheet right before you're on the clock? So I want to look into that, because I think that's a fascinating wrinkle I hadn't previously considered. Now, what happens after the draft? If no one signs into an offer sheet, the Ravens have until July 17. It's usually the 15th. This year, the 15th is a Saturday. So it's July 17, 4 p.m. Eastern, to sign him to a multi-year deal. After that, the Ravens can't sign him to a multi-year contract. Now, I believe after that, other teams could still sign him to an offer sheet, and the Ravens could match it. But after July 17, the Ravens cannot sign him to a multi-year deal. And if we get to that, let's say he doesn't hire an agent, he can't get an offer sheet, he and the Ravens can't get a long-term deal done. They've been trying for over 2 years, and they haven't. We get to July 17. The battle lines then become Lamar has a $32.4 million franchise tender. If he accepts it, he's under contract for 1 year. Well, is he going to play for $32.4 million? I wouldn't advise him to do that. I would advise him to say, I want more than 32.4. And if I'm the Ravens, what I'm considering is, and we hear about per-game roster bonuses, you get extra money for every game that you actually play. I would consider offering him a very significant per-game roster bonus as an incentive to get him to play. So we get into another situation where he's got a knee injury, he's not 100%, and maybe he's being careful about his future earnings. Well, if you offer him something ridiculous like $1 million a game, and if he plays all 17 games, he pushes his pay for the year to 49.4, that may be the way to make him happy about his circumstance. Because my big concern is he signs a contract or accepts a franchise tender and isn't happy, and then you have a guy who may not go above and beyond and continue to be upset about not getting that big money contract that he earned years ago and is yet to cash in on.
So before we move on, just to circle back to your Pro Football Talk report about somebody who's not league or union certified, knocking on doors of NFL teams to say, hey, Lamar's interested if you are, because he wants to leave the Ravens, and you don't have to guarantee all dollars and cents. Who's most upset by that? Or nobody?
I think that a lot of people should be upset by it. It's a CBA violation if the teams actually engage in discussions with that person. Primarily, if the league does nothing about it, the agents who pay the money to the union for their annual fees, they have to go out and buy malpractice insurance every year. They have to go to a meeting every year. They're subject to discipline and regulation and oversight by the union. If I'm an agent that checks all the boxes to properly participate in this business, and the union and the league are doing nothing to eradicate people who aren't officially certified representing players. And, Rich, a lot of the guys who are self-represented and we make a big deal and we cheer them on, hey, that's great, go do it yourself. Most of those guys have somebody who isn't certified who's helping them. So the proper way to say it is not that they're represented by themselves. They're represented by someone who isn't certified by the NFLPA. So if this is happening and it's not being squashed by the league and or the union, the agents should be upset because they're the ones who are doing everything to be the ones in position to properly and legally negotiate these deals.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.